The Chernobyl disaster left behind a radioactive wasteland, but nature didn't just wither away. It transformed in eerie and unexpected ways. One of the most haunting examples? The Red Forest. When Reactor 4 exploded in 1986, an immense radiation wave swept through the surrounding pine trees, instantly killing them and turning their needles into a fiery red. The entire forest, once lush and green, became a toxic graveyard so contaminated that even today, Geiger counters scream when brought near the soil. Scientists expected the area to be a dead zone for centuries, yet something bizarre happened. Life adapted. Among the strangest survivors are so-called black frogs. Before the disaster, eastern tree frogs in the region were bright green. However, after generations of radiation exposure, many of them developed an unusually dark pigmentation. Some researchers believe that this melanin-rich skin may help shield from the radiation, acting like nature's built-in protective suit. The consequences of Chernobyl's fallout were devastating, but the resilience of nature is undeniable. The Red Forest remains one of the most radioactive places on Earth, yet it teems with the mutant plants and thriving wildlife. Does this mean nature can outlast even nuclear catastrophe? Or are these eerie adaptations a warning of the long-term consequences of human disasters? One thing certain, Chernobyl's aftermath is as astonishing as it is terrifying. They were abandoned, left to fend for themselves in one of the most radioactive places on Earth. When Chernobyl's residents were evacuated in 1986, their beloved pets were left behind, doomed to a ghost town where radiation seeped into every inch of the land. Soldiers were sent in to call them, but some survived. And against all odds, their descendants still roam the exclusion zone today. Can you believe that? The feral dogs of Chernobyl have become a haunting symbol of life after disaster. Unlike ordinary strays, these dogs live in an invisible minefield of radiation, drinking contaminated water and scavenging among decaying buildings. Scientists have discovered that their DNA carries traces of this toxic legacy, mutations that might reveal how life adapts to extreme conditions. But here's the most shocking part. They're not truly wild. Despite generations of isolation, these dogs remain loyal to humans. Workers at the Chernobyl power plant feed them, tourists sneak them scraps, and some even try to adopt them, though radiation tests must be done first. What does this say about survival when even in a nuclear wasteland, dogs refuse to abandon their bond with people? The feral dogs of Chernobyl aren't just a relic of the past. They're living proof that even in the face of devastation, life and loyalty find a way. Now, what happens when nature is forced to adapt to one of the most nuclear disasters in history? The answer lurks beneath the murky waters of Chernobyl's cooling ponds. Massive catfish, some growing over 6 feet long, thriving in a place humans dare not to enter. How is that even possible? These giant catfish, along with other wildlife, have taken over the abandoned exclusion zone, defying expectations. With no humans to interfere, nature has reclaimed its territory, and animals are thriving in ways scientists never predicted. Wolves, bison, and even rare lynxes roam the forests, while mutated insects and radioactive fungi hint at the lasting effects of the meltdown. But let's talk about those catfish. Some believe radiation caused them to grow abnormally large, but experts argue it's simply because they've been left undisturbed for decades. Without predators or fishermen, these aquatic giants have ruled contaminated waters, living longer and growing larger than their counterparts elsewhere. Is this proof that nature can endure even the worst man-made catastrophe? Or is it a ticking time bomb waiting to reveal the true consequences of radiation exposure? One thing is for certain, Chernobyl's wildlife is a living experiment, and the results are more shocking than anyone could have imagined. In the aftermath of Chernobyl's catastrophic meltdown, scientists expected a wasteland devoid of life. Instead, they discovered something astonishing: bacteria that don't just survive radiation, but actually feed on it. How is that even possible? Deep inside the ruined reactor, where radiation leaves remain lethal to humans, colonies of microscopic organisms thrive. These extremophiles, particularly a species called Cladosporium sphaerospermum, have adapted to use radiation as an energy source, much like plants use sunlight for photosynthesis. Just think about that. While radiation is deadly to most life forms, these bacteria harness it for survival. Researchers believe they absorb harmful radiation and convert it into chemical energy, potentially shielding themselves and other organisms from its effects. The discovery has sparked groundbreaking theories about how life could exist in extreme environments, maybe even on Mars or deep space. But here's the real question. Could these bacteria hold the key to cleaning up nuclear disasters? If scientists can harness their radiation-eating abilities, they might develop ways to decontaminate radioactive sites, making places like Chernobyl and Fukushima safer for future generations. Chernobyl remains a symbol of devastation, but in its ruins, life has found a way. The The existence of these bacteria challenges everything we thought we knew about survival, resilience, and the very limits of life itself. What if I told you that spiders could help scientists track radiation levels? It sounds like something out of a sci-fi movie, but deep inside the Chernobyl exclusion zone, spiderwebs have become unexpected indicators of radioactive contamination. Researchers studying the area have noticed something unusual. Spiderwebs spun in highly radioactive zones appear more chaotic and irregular than those in less contaminated areas. Could radiation be affecting these tiny architects? Some scientists believe exposure to radiation disrupts the spider's nervous system, leading to tangled, asymmetrical webs rather than the intricate, organized patterns they usually weave. But that's not all. Spiders are also bioindicators, meaning their behavior and biology reflect changes in the environment. Since they feed on insects, which in turn absorb radiation from plants and soil, their presence in health can reveal how radiation moves through the ecosystem. In a way, these webs act as living radiation sensors, silently documenting the invisible forces shaping the world. The implications are fascinating. If spiders are this sensitive to radiation, could they be used to monitor nuclear disaster sites in the future? Could their webs become natural radiation maps, warning scientists about contamination levels in ways technology cannot? Chernobyl's legacy is one of destruction, but its aftermath continues to reveal unexpected mysteries, some woven in silk, stretching silently across the ruins of a disaster. Deep in the Chernobyl exclusion zone, where humans fled decades ago, a new ruler has emerged: the wolves. But these aren't just any wolves. They are thriving in a radioactive wasteland, defying expectations and raising one chilling question: has radiation changed them? Despite the high radiation levels, Chernobyl's wolf population has exploded, outnumbering those in nearby uncontaminated areas. Scientists expected the radiation to weaken them, causing genetic mutations and shorter lifespans. Instead, the wolves appear strong, resilient, and even more aggressive than their counterparts outside of the zone. How is this possible? One theory suggests that without human interference, no hunting, no habitat destruction, the wolves have adapted to their new world. Some researchers speculate that while radiation exposure might cause some genetic mutations, natural selection is allowing only the strongest to survive, leading to a tougher, more resistant generation. But here's the dark side. The wolves are carrying radiation in their bodies, potentially spreading contamination beyond the exclusion zone as they roam into Belarus, Russia, and Ukraine. Could they be unwitting carriers of nuclear fallout? Could radiation-resistant creatures emerge from Chernobyl, altered in ways that we don't understand yet? The radioactive wolves of Chernobyl are more than just survivors. They are living proof that nature can adapt in the most unexpected ways. But whether this adaptation is a triumph or a warning remains to be seen. Radiation doesn't just disappear. It lingers, invades, and rewrites the very code of life. In the wake of the Chernobyl disaster, thousands were exposed to levels of radiation no human body was ever meant to endure. The consequences? A surge in thyroid cancer, immune system failures, and genetic mutations still haunt generations today. Can you imagine being told that an invisible force is silently attacking your body? That's exactly what happened to the Chernobyl liquidators, firefighters, soldiers, and workers who rushed in to contain the disaster. Many suffered from acute radiation syndrome, their bodies literally breaking down from the inside. Skin burned from within, organs failed, and for some, survival was impossible. But the damage didn't stop with them. In the years that followed, birth defects increased, and even those living hundreds of miles away reported higher cancer rates. Scientists still debate the full extent of the long-term health effects, but one thing is clear: Chernobyl changed the human biology in ways we never fully understand. And here's the chilling part: some people chose to return. Decades later, a handful of former residents moved back into the exclusion zone, living in the shadow of radiation. How is that even possible? The legacy of Chernobyl isn't just a cautionary tale, it's an ongoing mystery written in human suffering. The Chernobyl disaster didn't just devastate a region, it sent shockwaves through the entire world, reshaping nuclear policies forever. One catastrophic night in 1986 forced governments to ask a chilling question: is nuclear power worth the risk? Before Chernobyl, nuclear energy was seen as the future, an efficient, reliable power source that could fuel growing economies. But after the explosion, the world saw firsthand what happens when things go wrong. Countries scrambled to reevaluate their nuclear programs. Germany, for example, eventually committed to phasing out nuclear power altogether. Sweden and Italy followed with referendums limiting nuclear expansion. Even pro-nuclear nations, like the United States and France, tightened safety regulations and improved reactor designs. And then there was the Soviet Union. Chernobyl wasn't just a nuclear disaster, it was a political one. The Soviet government's slow response and cover-ups fueled distrust both at home and abroad. Transparency in nuclear policy became a global demand, forcing even the most secretive nations to cooperate on safety standards. But here's the paradox. Despite Chernobyl's horrors, nuclear energy never truly disappeared. Some countries like China and Russia doubled down on nuclear investments, believing better technology could prevent another disaster. Others, fearing climate change, now see nuclear as a necessary evil in reducing carbon emissions. So, was Chernobyl a warning the world needed, or a lesson it's slowly forgetting? The debate over nuclear energy rages on, but one thing is certain: Chernobyl changed the conversation forever. Which aspect of Chernobyl's aftermath surprised you the most? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and let us know if you'd like to see more stories of historical disasters. Join us next time as we explore more events that have shaped our world, because every disaster has a story worth telling.